Hi everyone, welcome to the SEN Sustainability Show. This is your host Faiz. This podcast is about understanding social entrepreneurship and sustainability and how we can affect our communities and ultimately change the world. And thank you for listening in. Welcome to this episode, an inspiring episode featuring Arianna Watson, a dedicated social entrepreneur born in Italy to English parents and currently based in Adelaide, Australia. As the co-founder of Think Enough, Ariana is on a mission to propel for-purpose businesses into the mainstream, making sustainable choices easy, enjoyable, and rewarding for consumers. In addition, Arena also sits on the board of the South Australian Social Enterprise Council. And I met Arena 2 months ago during the Social Enterprise World Forum in Amsterdam. And she's also a member of Catalyst 2030 movement. So welcome to the show, Arena.
Thank
How are
you,
you?
guys. Really good, thanks. Really exciting to be here. Really nice to catch up after meeting at the forum in Amsterdam too.
Yes, it's great to meet Arena in person. And now I'm seeing her online and she's in Adelaide. It's like 9:30 in the morning. I'm in Chicago. It's like, I think 5 o'clock in the evening. I'm a bit jet lagged. Anyway, before we begin, maybe you'd like to share a little introduction about yourself to the listeners, besides what I mentioned at the start
Yeah,
just now.
sure. Introductions are always a confusing concept. I'm kind of like, I can go one way and be like, well, I'm passionate, I love people, a tendency to look for the positive, and I'm a social enterprise nerd. But maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a bit more
Okay.
useful to give a bit of background, kind of like my background journey and where I came to be here. So yeah, like you mentioned, I was born and grew up in Italy in a tiny little village in regional Italy, which is still really important to me. I studied international relations in the UK, and I guess that's where my passion started to with that kind of like the concept and the idea of wanting to change the world for the better. That's probably why I then ended up actually after university going into international development. I got the chance to spend some time in Zambia and Uganda working with some local not-for-profits and NGOs over there and having some absolutely great experiences, but also within that system, kind of like having a growing frustration with the models and the concept of development, that concept of we're here to help you, we know what's best. So that kind of probably sent me back to Italy to question a little bit what I could do in my own home country, and look for a different model. And there I got very involved in the space of like forced migration. So I worked with a co-op that supported people seeking asylum and refugees, and then again kind of butted heads with that business model where the donor dictates how the money's spent without seeing the beneficiaries as the skilled, resourceful people that they are, and how they might have their own ideas about how to better their lives. So then, yeah, I guess fast forward to now, and I'm here in Australia, in Adelaide, lucky to be here on an entrepreneur visa. And where I originally came actually just for what was supposed to be 1 year to learn and discover all of like the concept of business model for good. So I wanted to learn what is a different business model that I can use that isn't based on that development and charity and not for profit model that was so
Mm-hmm.
dependent on external funding. So I came over here to be like, right, I'm coming for a year. I'm just going to learn from as many businesses as I can talk to and who will speak to me. And then I guess that ended up turning into a bit of like a 4 year deep dive into social entrepreneurship, where I ended up co-founding my own social enterprise and getting very, very involved in the social enterprise sector here in South Australia, and in Australia as a whole, being on the board of the network, and a lot of collaborations with other social enterprises over here too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a bit of background. Is that
Wow.
okay?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. If people don't know it, I met, personally, Arena. She's a very bubbly person, and when she talks, she sort of pulls you in into her conversation. Yes, and that's a very nice introduction about how you got involved into, like you mentioned, social entrepreneurship. And like myself, I really love the subject. And um, your journey led you to explore. You mentioned changing the concept. You're freeing the not for profits and traditional constraints of business. And maybe you like to you touch on, you're doing work in Zambia, Uganda. Maybe you can elaborate more on the journey of basically integrating this business model and practices for social good. What did you do from then on when you were in Australia?
Yeah, I guess I, one of the things that just kept kind of like happening throughout my journey of, wanting to work in to be able to make the world a better place in some kind of way is I kept hitting
Mm-hmm.
a really similar barrier of that funding model. So like where um, in a lot of organizations within international development and some charities and things like that, what can happen is that who you're serving can get quite blurred. So is it the funders or is it the
Mm-hmm.
beneficiaries? So while your organization is aimed at supporting your beneficiaries, the people that are actually paying for it are external funders or could be government, which really what I really struggled with is I ended up seeing a lot of really good community led initiatives that were based on the strengths of
Mm-hmm.
the individuals themselves and helping people develop their like in their own way and supporting people's personal journey out of a situation of disadvantage. The ones that were actually taking into account that community led aspect tended to a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them were just interrupted because of like potentially some the agenda of the funders. The funders thinking that they know best of where
Mm-hmm.
the money should be spent. So I guess my
Mm-hmm.
question was there, like how can we do good, but how can we do good independently without having to depend on those external funders? And that's where I started looking and exploring all of the different models and business models. And I guess so that the journey was kind of one of understanding of so what are other ways in which people do good that isn't through a traditional international development or charity system. And so then I came across, the concept of social enterprise. So that kind of having a business that has a social environmental mission, which is as strong as the profit side. So you're selling the product and the service, but you're also creating impact. But then I kind of connected with a lot of like community businesses that were actually run by the communities that they aim to serve. So that's kind of uplifting communities. There were initiatives of that kind as well that might be trading in non-monetary ways. So that's kind of like sharing systems. There were trading charities, so charities who actually had social enterprise arms. There's like then the more traditional businesses that actually had a heart, so they're wanting to do good with the business that they have. Um, and another model would be co-ops that actually do that through their whole ownership structure. So it's like rather than having the top person at the top making all of the money and owning the company, it's actually owned by all of the workers involved in the whole system. So kind of I guess the journey was exploring all of those different models and looking at like what exists that actually does good in a completely different way that
Mm-hmm.
is also generating the funds to be able to operate itself. Does that make sense? That's a bit of a
Yeah, yeah, it does. Yeah, it makes perfect sense because, and at that stage, when you were, throughout this transition, did you think that yourself, you will end up being a social entrepreneur, or just on a journey to explore the options available out there?
not a
Because it's not easy to become, a social entrepreneur, because you have to have sort of a, like you say, a business
yeah
model which has to be sustainable, making your own
yeah
money and then giving good to people who
yeah
deserve it, not by like philanthropic organizations who are choosing who their beneficiaries or who should receive the
well,
funds. So did you think that you're going to be a social entrepreneur at that stage when you're exploring
I
these
guess it was
options?
more of I was exploring the options to learn and then take back home to Italy to try and implement in the co-op that, or in that area and in the co-op that I was working in. So I was kind of like, I want to show you
Hmm.
examples where businesses doing things independently from external funding so that you believe that it's
Mhm.
possible and that we can do that together. So I was kind of thinking of learning and then coming back and being part of like a transition into kind of one of those models for the co that I was involved in. So I definitely never thought that I'd end up over here creating something completely, or not completely different, just like connected, but still, yeah, never ever thought that I'd be in the position that I'd be at the moment, being able to like talk to all of these amazing social entrepreneurs, but then being listed amongst them as well. It's a bit of a, I think that was definitely a massive shock. Yeah, definitely. And then just a little random fun fact also is that although I say
Mhm.
like social entrepreneurship, I got really, really focused on the concept of social entrepreneurship when I was coming over here to Australia, and
Mhm.
that's what I wanted to learn about. I don't think I'd properly clicked that that's actually something that had been quite important to me and that had touched me beforehand. Like actually, when I worked in Zambia with the this little not-for-profit organization over there called School Club Zambia, their whole model was actually based on the fact that they were supporting community schools in Zambia with their little micro enterprises that were already, you know, the school already came up with these ideas of little micro enterprises on the side of the school to actually raise funds for the school. So things like gardens and tuck shops and tailoring centres and things like that. But School Club Zambia was actually kind of coming in and supporting them with the business development of that and then connecting them to other schools to be able to kind of widen that network. And so actually, I think I probably started learning about social entrepreneurship from young children in Zambia, you know, like without real, it's
Okay.
like, yeah, I had a lot of those learnings coming across and that kind of stuck in my head. I was always looking for those kind of things from then. Um, so yeah, while I say
Uh-huh.
it's like it's a deep dive now, it's actually probably there's so many touch points in which I've come across it without seeing it and without really fully understanding it until now.
Yeah, and yeah, because Ariana has an interesting story. She sort of like landed in Adelaide or in Australia and got stuck during COVID. And through her, experience in the field of social entrepreneurship, she formed this company called, or this movement, or this platform, right? Called Think Enough. Maybe you like to elaborate more to the listeners about this company or this platform that you have. It's called Think Enough, and if you don't know, it's on thinkenough.com,
Awesome. Well,
right?
thank you. Thanks for talking about letting me talking about it. It's like one of my big passions, so it's like I love it. Um, anyway, yeah, Think
It's good.
Enough is uh, so basically it makes a lot of sense coming out of my story of like actually coming over here to Australia to learn about all of these purposeful businesses that are selling products and service,
Hmm.
but also creating a big impact. And Think Enough is essentially a platform that connects individuals to social enterprises or for purpose businesses, um, and help those individuals actually make better choices about where they spend their time and their money. So essentially, it's like a map and a directory, but also a platform and a community that helps people find the thing that they're looking for. So the cafe, the restaurant, the fashion store, the thing to do on the weekend, but the version that does good for the world. So a bit of like a, I don't know. Our initial idea was a trip advisor for good. So where all of the options were actually giving back to community and the planet. So yeah, we started as a directory and a map, so that people could actually, the
Hmm.
idea was, I'm in Adelaide, I want a coffee. I want a coffee that has a positive impact. Where can I find it? So we were providing the platform for that. But I guess over time we've also evolved in lots of fun interactive like experiences and meetups and other ways in which we try as much as possible to get people connected to all of the great social enterprises and purposeful businesses that are out there and that exist here in Australia.
Yes, because when we talk about social entrepreneurship scene now, a lot of millennials, they're into, how do you say, driving or using, or how do you say, consuming or buying products which are sustainable and helps the planet. So basically, you're trying to say that your platform provides these consumers or these people with the option to purchase, like you say, coffee or something else, like dresses and clothes that will help uh, a company or a organization that is doing something good for the world, right?
Absolutely,
Is that it?
absolutely. And then so that's practically what it does in practice. And
Uh-huh.
our aim is to kind of, uh, whilst there are a lot of, especially younger generation, like you said, millennials and younger, who are looking for those good options and those like conscious choices in
Mm-hmm.
in what they're buying. There's also a big
Mm-hmm.
feeling of powerlessness, like everyone's kind of, the world is burning, things going downhill. I don't know how to engage in that. I feel like, I want to do something, but I just don't believe that the change is possible. And I think Enough's message is to try and paint a bit of a better picture of the world of actually, well, actually, there's a lot going on out there that is doing good, and this is a simple way in which you can engage in it. So look at all of these businesses that are actually doing great things in the world, and
Mm-hmm.
a simple step into a cafe or a shout out to one of those businesses on social media can actually start showing that we do have the solutions. We're just not looking for them, or at the same time, a lot of those businesses might not just don't have the marketing power of the big businesses that are dominating the system. So we need to
I
look for
see.
the good as well.
Yeah, definitely. So is it at the moment the directory is localized, or it can be replicated globally? Because we're looking at the broader sustainability landscape. So how do you believe this initiative sort of contributes to the sustainable choices, and how can this platform sort of be replicated, for maybe some listeners out there, there's somewhere else in another part of the world, just say Barcelona, and has this idea like, hey, you know what, maybe this is a good idea. How would somebody like that go about and looking at the bigger picture when we talking about
Yes,
sustainability,
we'd
right?
love that, absolutely. So obviously it's we started off in Melbourne and in Adelaide, um,
Oh,
and
okay.
that was a
Mm-hmm.
conscious choice because I'm one of four co-founders, and the other three co-founders are based in Melbourne. I'm based in Adelaide, and although we collected a lot of businesses from all over Australia, we were very focused on, let's create a better user experience and start off small with those businesses that we personally connected with. I think that's actually been quite a big
Mm-hmm.
strength, but because we've connected personally with those businesses and it's been very localized, it's meant that we've been able to build great collaborations with those businesses and create fun experiences and bring some of those businesses together and get more consumers to like engage in that space. So there's definitely value in it being localized, but it's something that the platform and the map can be used all over the world, and so anyone
Mm-hmm.
could potentially add on a purposeful business there. I think we're very keen on the whole idea was that we'd love to be able to be Australia wide and then a lot wider moving on, especially for me, maybe in Italy, because that's where my ties are,
Italy, right?
absolutely. But I think it definitely needs the connection with the localized people in that area that know the space, understand the different types of businesses and the different types of ways in which they can operate in those areas. Because although that like it's businesses that are doing good is the main concept, there's obviously lots of ways in which you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if there's any connections with specific areas, then we'd love to move that wider. And if not, maybe other areas have something that it operates in a different way but could be doing something similar, and some partnerships with those kind of things would work really well. I know that there's lots of online marketplaces available where things are
Mm-hmm.
actually sold online, but the better choices are sold online. Those are absolutely fantastic. They're just a bit different from what we're doing, so we just like would love to,
Okay.
yeah, collaborate with anyone operating
Yeah.
locally. You know, the idea isn't
Yes.
don't take over everything from the top down. It's kind of like a localized approach and bottom up concept. Yeah.
Yes, I understand. That's great. It's an amazing concept, and it's amazing that you're actually doing it. And when we talk about social entrepreneurship, there's always probably people will ask about the impact that you're generating or you're creating. So have what impact have you witnessed through this initiative? And I know you try to make the choices easier, more fun, and rewarding for consumers. How do you go about this? And what kind of impact have you seen throughout
Yeah,
this past
yeah,
2 years?
good
Yeah.
question. I'm always asking people this. Well, it's funny actually. When I think about when I look at our impact, I think the first, especially in this
Mm-hmm.
first stage of what we've of Think Enough running, I think one of the biggest impacts that I was really surprised with probably was just the understanding of how many of these businesses that we profiled on our platform and that we've collaborated with are just kind of this feeling of relief that it actually matters. So it's actually,
Ah.
all of these businesses that we've been approaching saying, we love what you do. We'd love to profile you on Think Enough. Will you, come on board in our community? We'll put you on the map. Let's create some experiences with you. And they're just like so, excited to be acknowledged and to be recognized for the good that they're doing. Because it's so hard to do business and do good at the same time. They work really
True,
hard at what
true.
they're doing, and then a lot of the time don't get a lot of recognition for it. So the fact that we're trying to promote that concept of like, let's keep loving these businesses, let's go to these businesses, let's support them because they're doing so much more than just business, has given them so the impact that it's had, I think, individually on the business founders and owners and people that run those businesses has actually been quite big. That's just kind of like an unexpected like bigger impact on the business side, which is like fantastic because
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what we want the businesses to feel like they can do good and keep going and do more. So we want to support that. And then I guess on the consumer side, where you're asking kind of like what are um, you said kind of like how do we make those choices fun and rewarding
Yeah,
and
just
easy
more
like
fun
that.
and easier
Yeah,
for
and what
them.
the impact
Yeah.
is on that. I guess one of my favorite stories, which was something that we did a while ago, though, we ran what we called the Good Trail in Adelaide, which was a essentially like a treasure hunt around the city where people went, they bought tickets to this experience, and then they went around the city and QR coded in the businesses, the purposeful businesses that they visited, collecting impact points, and then learning about that business, potentially spending some money there, but like, or shouting them out and mentioning them to other people. But it was this whole concept of like awareness raising of these businesses. And the impact from that, we built an impact report on the back of that. And I think my favorite little piece of impact, so, we calculated how many of those businesses had been visited for the first time. So a lot of consumers were actually going there and
Mm-hmm.
didn't know about those businesses, which actually helped raise awareness of them. But a great one was someone bought a bike while they were on the Good Trail. They actually bought a bike um, from this
Okay.
wonderful social enterprise called the Adelaide Community Bicycle Workshop. And they're not only do they basically take in and repurpose used bikes to resell them to minimize waste, so they've got that environmental impact. But their main aim
Mm-hmm.
is basically to support recently arrived migrants and refugees with either the help like donating bikes for transport, but also creating a community space where people can come in and start interacting with the community, learn the language, learn a bit about the Adelaide and the area, and start like building up networks with people.
Mm-hmm.
So the person, this like great person that was on the trail, reported back to us saying that they bought the bike, they absolutely loved it because of where they bought the bike from, and they supported the mission. But then it was fantastic because later down the line, it's like I now feel better physically, that movement, and actually for health reasons, as well as like having minimized
Mm-hmm.
my carbon footprint because now I bike everywhere rather than driving everywhere. So it's kind of like all of these little different areas where we're just trying to raise awareness of where the businesses are. Didn't expect someone to actually buy a bike, which was wonderful. So there's kind of that impact of
Yeah.
actually trying to get people to 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 buy and interact with these businesses. And then I
Mm-hmm.
guess those like the impact that we're having is trying to tweak all of those small little changes for people. So that a more recent thing that we did was a challenge. We ran a challenge in a co-working space for Plastic Free July. So we basically had teams in the co-working space that were kind of competing against each other on who could actually create, do more, do better
Oh,
sustainably,
really?
do all of these sustainable
Okay,
actions and
okay.
learn about changes that they could make and take these changes. And had like 80% of the participants said that they made unexpected changes or unexpected efforts during the challenge that they otherwise wouldn't have made.
I see.
And then at the same time, they also talked about how much they connected with the community. So because they were doing all of these actions and doing good, even though they were competing with each other, it actually brought them together and everyone was building off each other's wins. So the more people did, the
Mm-hmm.
more other people wanted to do on top of that. So it wasn't just about the competition; it was actually getting to know all of the people in their workspace, connecting with them, and kind of like clubbing together for something that was meaningful and that was a good win. So it's trying to get people to trying to get people to see that those small little actions actually do count, and when you're all doing them together, they have a
Mm-hmm.
greater impact than you think, and
Yeah.
that like it actually helps to connect and to see that there are other people making those changes and that are doing good. So it makes you want to be part of that and get involved with that. So
Yeah.
I guess that impact of trying to bring more people into that sphere of there are things
Yeah.
that you can do, and they are, and you start small, and then and then you keep going, and whoever knows where you end up.
True, true. And I always believe, every small change or it does affect the community. I think that's a great story that you shared. And what was interesting, I picked up from that last conversation was that you mentioned that you actually measured the impact. And did you share this? Is it available on the platform? Because I think recent discussions. I was recently in. We talked about it just now in San Sebastian. I think what is missing from most. How do you say social entrepreneurship efforts is the measurable social impact that people tend to forget. We have a lot of narratives. Oh, I did this. It is great, but we didn't really actually measure this metric. So, how did you go about this? And is it available online on your platform, or that's you kept it
Yeah,
some?
yeah. The
Maybe like you
the
share that.
so the good trail that we ran, that was the experience that we ran, has an impact report that we built on the back of
Mm-hmm.
that, and that's available. You can download
Mm-hmm.
that directly from our website. So on our website, there's a
Yeah.
section for the good trail, and there's a impact report that can be
Mm-hmm.
downloaded, so you can have a little look at that. The thing that was really
Okay.
good with that is because we were able to collect a lot of information of where people were going and if people had been there before or not. We were able to measure a lot through that gamification. You could measure a lot of that impact of what that was creating. And then yeah, we'll soon be releasing the impact report for the last challenge that we did as well. So we kind of try and create impact reports for each of the different experiences that we create.
Oh, amazing. All right. Anyway, we come almost to the end of the session, so maybe a last question from me, because I know as a board member of the South Australian Social Enterprise Council, and also um, a member of Catalyst 2030, and Catalyst 2030 is big on collaborations and catalyzing the movement. How do such roles contribute to the collective impact? We talk about impact and the role. How does it the collaboration play in fostering sustainability? What I'm trying to get is, because the show is social entrepreneurship and sustainability. How does it foster the long-term direction of sustainability within social
Yeah,
entrepreneurship or for the social enterprises
yeah.
in Adelaide?
Well, I
Finally.
guess I think players like the South Australian Social Enterprise Council, which is a social enterprise network. There's
Mm-hmm.
networks across Australia, and then Catalyst 2030. Like the things that they do is that the being based on collaboration um, definitely
Mm-hmm.
helps support. And here the question here, by sustainability, you mean environmental sustainability or long-term sustainability and change,
I
or
s-
both?
it should be social, economic, and also environmental sustainability. It should be all
Yeah,
three, right? To me, sustainability should have all these
Perfect,
three
perfect.
concepts anyway.
That's what I
But
believe
everybody
too.
has a different
I'm
definition.
like always going to double check and ask because so many people might mean different things. But yes, perfect. I like the multiple definition usage of that. So yeah, like
Hmm.
I guess just stepping back a sense is that the importance of collaboration is the key point there, and collaboration just in the
Hmm.
sphere of social enterprise and social and environmental change, that just makes sense because we're actually all working for that
Hmm.
same end goal, for a better world that is more fair, that
Hmm.
is more sustainable, that is more inclusive. So actually, the coming together and sharing and doing things together, so that collaboration community piece, just
Hmm.
makes total sense. Um, so I think what
Hmm.
happened with what the South Australian Social Enterprise Council and and organisations like Catalyst 2030 are doing really well is they're basically bringing people together and getting people to realize how we are all together and we are a team, and what we do have in house
Hmm.
that can actually help create the change that we want to make outside. So it's basically that there's a lot of effort put into time and effort put into like connecting all of those pieces and who's doing what and how is that person doing it. So the end game is is to be better, is to create a better world. But each individual organization and social entrepreneur, and even just individual has a piece to play in that. It's important to think, well, you can't do everything, so you might as well focus on what you do
Yes,
well, and then find the
that's
people
right.
around you that believe in the same vision as you, but do something else really well, and help and let them do the work that they're good at. So it's a great way to actually be able to, as an organization yourself. So for me, as Think Enough as a business myself, I actually feel like I'm part of you know the South Australian Social Enterprise Council team, because all of the other businesses in there
Hmm.
are my team members, because they're doing other things that are then contributing to my end mission. And the same thing with Catalyst 2030, right? It's like all of these players, all of these organizations and people in there that are doing all of the different things to be able to then go towards the end goal. So I think we need to look at that. We need to spend more time looking at that, like trying to help map that out,
Hmm.
and be able to actually realize
Yeah.
what we do have. So that's that strength based kind of concept coming into play. And I think that's why the work that Catalyst 2030 is doing and trying to do, and like pulling everyone together and putting everyone in and showing everyone what exists and
Mm.
who their teammates are, essentially, is really has the potential to contribute to that, like to us all going in that same direction of, yes, we're all different, yes, we might all want like have slightly different versions of the final vision, but it all fits in together in a better world. So that's like, let's
Mhm.
try and join in and do that. So it's a really hard thing to do because it's a lot of time, yeah,
Moving
so many
parts, right?
moving parts, so much time spent. I love it because it's like time spent talking to people about what they
Yeah,
do and what their strengths are and
I
bringing people
understand.
together. But it's just it's something that's really important that doesn't get enough credit, I think, and that if we did all do
Mhm.
it more, I think we would genuinely be moving into a better direction a lot quicker. So yeah, that's why I think organisations like
Yeah,
this are
yeah,
absolutely uh, key
yeah,
to change.
yeah. It's very beautiful how you put it, like because you said, when you said, I can really feel that you say we all belong to that South Australian Social Enterprise Council, and when you talk about Catalyst 2030, yes, I do now remember. Oh yes, it's all this, all these amazing people, this whole network, just being part of it is just inspiring, and that inspires me, and I think your story also inspires a lot of people, or listeners out there. Maybe a final a short piece of advice for someone who wants to embark on a journey into social entrepreneurship, something to leave with the listeners from
Yeah,
you,
absolutely.
Ariana.
I'd say just spend some time just opening your eyes, sitting and having a look what's around you. What is there? If you're interested in getting involved in this space, look at what's there, look at what's around you, and connect with those people. Um, it's it's definitely not a role or a job to do alone. There are a lot of people out there um, that are on the same mission of you so as you. So if you're interested and inspired to do something, I'd say reach out, connect with others, connect with your networks. If you have a social enterprise network in your area, connect to them. Um, on a wider scale, connect to Catalyst 2030. Find your people and your community, because that will help. That will help bring you along and keep you going, and guide you and show you what other things are happening that you might not be, skilled in or wanting to do, but you can connect with and collaborate with.
Oh, well said, well said there. All right, thank you so much for being on the show, Ariana. A quick recap of today's show and our session with her. Ariana's message is clear. It is important to promote sustainable choices to consumers by making them accessible, enjoyable, and also rewarding. And also, how do you say it? Connect with the people that you have, I mean, like-minded people like us and you yourself, I suppose, to drive a bigger mission for the people and the planet. And if you're interested, I think I mentioned it a few times in the show. Do visit www.thinkenough.com for more information on Think Enough. And also, if you'd like to be involved in our nice movement, Catalyst 2030, do sign up as a member. I think today we have a GA later, Arena, if you're free. And, do drop by on our link, which is catalyst2030.net. So do join me next month as we explore the world of social entrepreneurship and sustainability. Do subscribe to this podcast and stay tuned for upcoming episodes. Together, let's make positive changes one episode at a time. Thank you
Woohoo!
for joining in.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Arena. Yes, and I hope to see you soon. And have a great Christmas and a good holiday in
Thank you.
Queensland, right?
Yes, and you have a wonderful time
All right.
too. Good luck with your travels.
All right. Thank you.